am stuck right up against the Sonoran Desert, up against the ocean, and up against a mountain. Jesus Christ.
You're doing good.
I just hope I'm on an island by myself. Yeah. I am now broadcasting this. So if you want to check out what mine looks like, feel free. Now broadcasting.
Has your mountain changed color?
Not that I noticed, but I wasn't really trying to pay
Mine is
attention.
now gray.
Oh, mine is
smoking more.
Mine's purple. Not sure what that means, but mine's purple. Gab, have you been trying to say
Okay,
something?
this isn't turning out well.
Hey, just let me know how that explosion goes. I really,
Yeah.
I kind of wish you were broadcasting so I could watch it.
I could broadcast, but I don't think it will show. I'll not even see yours. I'm gonna really like it. I'm gonna hate it if I lose my city, but if my volcano erupts, I get to see Pompeii.
That will be
I'm
cool.
gonna be real happy.
Yeah, it is kind of a cool
Yeah.
thought. I just put 6 new settlers in the QE because I think that it might be a good idea to fucking, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to complain. There's a village near me that's going to go before I do.
I finally met somebody. A city state, but I met somebody.
And what'd they tell you?
Nothing. Oh yeah, I need to get these settlers producing.
I've lost 27 pounds, and I feel like I got my life back.
I've been on there for...
Just before we get started, I do want to mention another channel that I host called Mega Projects. It's all about mankind's greatest extraction piece. Check it out if you need the description below. More on that in a bit. The chain of production that brings food to our tables involves so many moving parts that it's practically immersive. From growing out of the ground to being processed and packaged, there are so many steps. Therefore, so many things can go wrong. That kind of willful ignorance means that so many items can end up being items we use. Some of them very harmful, but a lot of times weird things are used in our food with some kind of benefit. They sound worse than they are, but usually there's a reason for their existence. In the video today, we're looking at some important secret ingredients in popular food. Number 10. Viruses in lunch meat. It's no secret that lunch meats are packed full of sodium and fat. It's a trade-off that, so delicious sandwiches. Those preservatives also allow that meat to stay good for a long time. But what if we told you that many of those deli meats are being sprayed with live viruses? That seemingly horrifying absence is actually intended to protect us. The Food and Drug Administration has allowed a mixture of 6 viruses to be sprayed on some lunch meats to protect against Listeria monocytogenes, which is a particularly nasty bacteria that can occur in those foods and causes many cases of death every year. The good news is that the additives only harmful to their tiny bacteria and only attack cells, meaning you can still eat visible salt and salami, and the viruses are protecting you and indeed already naturally inhabit your digestive tract. Number 9. Worcestershire sauce is anchovies. Worcestershire sauce is a unique sauce that many people use to enhance the flavor of beef, pork, or chicken. It is an unmistakable salty earthiness that is the end product of a mixture of some very unorthodox ingredients, among molasses, vinegar, and corn syrup, some things you might not necessarily imagine. One of the ingredients that you probably wouldn't think to put in a liquidy steak sauce is anchovies. Yes, those tiny little fish that are often put on pizza are kept in wooden casks, topped with vinegar, and left to ferment for a year and a half.
Oh,
During
shit.
that time, some eggs are kept.
Dude, there's lava coming down this mountain. I need to get my fucking character, or my warrior's already injured from it. Holy fuck.
Over the last 2 months, I've lost about 20 pounds, which blows my mind. So in 3 months, I've actually lost a little over 16 pounds.
Mine's not erupted yet.
Well, this one ain't mine. This is on the same continent, but it's across the other side of the island.
I've lost 10 pounds.
Oh.
And it's erupting. It is erupting right now. It even says it, erupting. Can you bring up my broadcast on your phone or something?
I gotta get my phone.
He's one of the nation's most decorated and respected medical doctors. His name is Dr. Mark Rosenberg, and today, due to overwhelming demand, he has posted this special video bulletin for the American public. In the video that is about to begin, Dr. Rosenberg provides clear answers to many of Americans' most pressing questions. He reveals the exact protective steps he is taking for himself, his family, and his patients. So lean forward, watch closely. He'll also share his simple 5-question at-home test, a quick way assessing immune health, and a hospital-grade device anyone can get for free. 1936 by Nobel Albert Z. Georgi, and how it might just hold the key to total inner health during these unprecedented times. This might just be the most important video posted to the internet in years.
Let me know when you
watch all the way until the
are
end.
watching. Oh,
And stay
okay.
until the very
So,
end, while it is still on.
Great. So many
unless you rewind mine,
Have you ever wondered just how
you're not going to see it. They erupt for a bit, and then they just go back to being active. Now, I think that it hurt my warrior here.
I'm
That's
watching
what
it.
Yeah, if you rewind it a little bit.
Yeah, I backed it up. I want to see what it's doing. Right now, you're on them guys in front of the pearls. And now you're slowly getting over to the volcano. You're beating the village. You run out. Okay, my volcano went off. Catastrophic volcanic eruption. Katoka volcano has erupted. Damage in the area is severe. 0 tiles damaged, 0 population loss, 0 units killed, 2 tiles gain fertility. Oh man, it's got lava coming out of it now like mad. And it's all running down the back of the hill. You hear that? You hear that wind?
No.
Oh shit, it runs down the side, touches the water, and now I got steam coming out of the water.
Oh, nice.
If you zoom in and put your thing right over top, like pull the program right in front of your screen, you can listen to it go off.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, those barbarians are dead. Okay, I got one of them. CITES. Owls of Minerva. Got a governor tile.
Yeah, I keep fucking up on sending my.
Find another one. Sanguine Pact. First major.
World. Oh shit! World climate. Did you look at that under L1 down at the bottom? There's world climate. Oh my gosh!
Oh,
Holy shit! Oh man, this is gonna be great.
CO2 levels. Okay,
Oh
I have no
yeah.
CO2 level contributions.
Well, I hope not.
Oh god, climate change phase is turning 3960 BC. I guess we're past that.
Okay, so.
Forest fire. I had a forest fire.
I met somebody. Lortario. Mupooch Empire or some shit. Alright, we're gonna rename him M-Pussy Empire. And he doesn't get a name. Fuck him.
You cannot buy land. Okay, no, you're not. All right.
I wonder if there's super volcanoes.
Find North America.
I wonder if that'd be something. Fucking super volcano goes off, fucks everything up, we have to rebuild.
Here's your little globe here. It even has the date on it. 2/11.
Yeah. Oh, this one says 12/25.
Before we get started, I do want to mention the chain of production that brings food to our tables involves so many moving parts that it's practically magic. From growing out of the ground and being processed and packaged, there are so many steps and therefore so many things that can go wrong. That kind of willful ignorance means that so many items can end up being items for use. Some of them very harmful, but a lot of times weird things are used in our food with some kind of benefit. They sound worse than they are, but usually there's a reason for their existence. In the video today, we're looking at some odd secret ingredients in popular food. Number 10. Viruses in lunch meat. It's no secret that lunch meats are packed full of sodium and fat. It's a trade-off that makes delicious sandwiches. Those preservatives also allow that meat to stay good for a long time. But what if we told you that many of those deli meats are being sprayed with live viruses? That seemingly horrifying act exactly intended to protect us. The Food and Drug Administration has allowed a mixture of 6 viruses to be sprayed on some lunch meats to protect against Listeria monocytogenes, which is a particularly nasty bacteria that can occur in those foods and causes, in many cases, food poisoning and even death every year. The good news is that the additive is only harmful to that kind of bacteria and only attacks those kind of cells, meaning you can still eat fistfuls of red salami, knowing the viruses are protecting you and indeed already naturally inhabit your digestive tract. Number 9. Worcestershire sauce is made anchovies. Worcestershire sauce is a unique sauce that many people use to enhance the flavour of beef, pork, or chicken. It is an unmistakable salty earthiness that is the end product of a mixture of some very unorthodox ingredients, among molasses, vinegar, and corn syrup, some things you might not necessarily imagine putting on your steak. One of the ingredients that you probably wouldn't think to put in a liquidy steak sauce is anchovies. Yes, those tiny little fish that are often put on pizza, kept in wooden casks, topped with vinegar, and left to ferment for a year and a half. During that time, inosamine, a chemical that produces savoury flavour, is released. That singular umami flavour is what makes the sauce so unique, even with these ground up fermented fish. Number 8. So many foods have sawdust in them. Have you ever wondered just how your shredded cheese can turn into a stuck together mess?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
But it's never as free flowing as the bag generous in the supermarket.
I set my shit to
Automatic.
automatic.
You staying there, or you gonna leave again? Yeah, blame it on your headset. It's called charging. I think my wife passed out. Nope, she's awake. Okay. Mr. Kitty was staring at you. I'm like, I think she's like conscious.
A Habab dust storm named Abby has developed and is headed to the southeast. The storm will cause destruction over the next 2 turns. With its arrival, there were 0 tiles damaged, 1 tile gained fertility. I don't fucking know. Oh shit. My guy's right in the middle of the dust storm. He's getting injured. Holy fuck.
You know, I'm enjoying these natural disasters. My guy's not suffering for anything.
Oh, you just wait. You're not in the desert, bitch.
No, I'm not. I didn't choose to live there.
Me either.
I went to a place with mountains and green grass. I have sea turtles to play with.
I have green grass and shit, but they put the desert right in the middle. I'm like Australia. Oh, 1 unit was killed. Oh, it killed my fucking unit. Holy shit. Alright, dude, you cannot leave your fucking shit in a unit or in a dust storm. It just killed one of my things.
Geothermal fissures. That's going to flooding. Man, this sucks. I'll just put him here. I'm going to park this guy over top of the geothermal fissure and see what happens.
Huh.
Let's live a little. Everywhere I go, there's more red than it says no water here. There's no sources. Okay, so now I have an act. Now my volcano is active again. Yeah, smoking real good. And well, I've got a settler over there, and these guys are Aztecs. No, these aren't the Aztecs.
There's tsunamis too. So you better pay attention to like every notification you get, I do believe.
I am. It's not looking good either.
I feel that. It's not for everybody. This is definitely a strategy game. Huh? I don't know.
I don't think you can share play this one.
This would be hard to share play. Yeah. Mortal Kombat, you just have to, you know. Yeah, I think the share play game, you probably have to have an offline mode, maybe. I'm not sure. How many cities you got?
One.
I'm about ready to land my fourth.
I'm ready to drop 2 more settlers. Let's see if I can get them someplace safe to live.
Huh.
Oh, here goes my volcano. It's erupting again. And 4 tiles to fertility this time.
Oh yeah, all that volcanic ash.
I am leading domination.
Oh,
You're in 3rd.
yeah, that's domination.
I am apparently dead last.
Nobody's taken the capital yet, so.
I'm in
Ooh,
dead last.
somebody's passed me up. Excuse me.
Man, that thing is really going off right now. It's throwing ash in, it's throwing hot lava into the water. It's bigger explosion. It killed the sheep.
Yeah.
Poor little sheep.
Don't put nothing close to it that you want to keep, obviously.
I'm not even building near it. I'll own it. That's about it.
My volcano hasn't erupted.
And mine just quit.
You probably got a much more active one than I do.
It changes shapes as it erupts too. Because I don't have a boat. My settler has to sit here and wait. Because I only got one path I can leave out of.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Debt piling up, motherfucker. It's straight income, bitch. This motherfucker need to stop smoking crack. I think besides a couple city-states, I might have this whole island to myself. Which will be great.
Oh, God, I got another volcano near me. I got one north of me, one west of me.
Excuse me.
All I've got going is government. Yeah, I do not know what the owls of Minerva do, but we're going to find out. Oh, there's a tornado going across the map.
It's a wild, turbulent land. No, I think that Laredo that I'm at is a secret society or some shit, maybe. That's what I'm thinking.
Another mountain, Jesus. That's the third mountain I found. That's the third volcano I found.
sauces at fast food restaurant sandwiches. It would be one thing if it added nutrition, but cellulose passes right through our bodies without being absorbed. Scientists say that we produce this plant fiber from almost anything other than trees, but it would cost us too much and waste too much food. So, well, enjoy your sawdust. Number 7. Red velvet cake mix and many other red foods are made with ground up beetles. If you've ever tried to make a solid red icing or red cake mix, you know that you usually just end up with something cake. It's very hard to get that solid red colouring when attempting to make red food, but thankfully science got ahead of the problem a long time ago. But what they didn't tell you is one of the best ways to get that colour is to crush up some bugs. Cochineal dye is a technical term for it, but that ingredient is a byproduct of bugs that are dried up and crushed. Lord only knows how they figured out this particular usage, but when that dried up powder meets water, it's a red pigment unlike any other. Red velvet cake, sausages, and even candy contain cochineal dye. The little beetles feast off a certain type of cactus in the American deserts and produce the dye in their stomachs to keep predators away. And of course, you have the gifts of the fruits of their neighbours in your own stomach. Number 6. Lots of canned foods have BPA in them. BPA, or bisphenol A, was a chemical present in many baby products up until recent years. BPA is built upon the creation of many plastics and linings. There's also linked to cancer and other kinds of burn defects, so it's not surprising the FDA eventually removed it from those kinds of items. Except they didn't totally do away with it. Many food can linings still have BPA in them. The Centre for Environmental Health bought canned food from all sorts of locations in 2017, including supermarkets and dollar stores, and found that 40% of them still contains unlawful chemical. The rate was lower than the previous study done 2 years before, but it's shocking that almost half of canned goods contain such a dangerous substance. The FDA says the amount present in foods is safe, but other states like California are disagreeing and passing their own standards. And just before we get into the top 5 today, I do want to take a moment to tell you about another channel that I do called Mega Projects. Mega Projects is a channel all about mankind's greatest achievements, where I take a deep look at incredible buildings, projects, structures, and more. Whether it's the world's most impressive skyscrapers, the International Space Station, or Chernobyl's sarcophagus, we cover it all. New videos come out a couple of times a week on Mega Projects, so if you think it could be for you, please do head over and subscribe. There is a link in the description below. Let's get back to it.
Your eyes are everything. They're how you see the world and connect with others. At Shopco Optical, your eyes are everything to us too, which is why we offer everything to help you see better and look better. A huge selection of designer frames, convenient locations, and experienced optometrists. We're Shopco Optical. You'll see. Right now, get 50% off lenses with the purchase of any frames.
Excuse me.
Number 5. Wendy's chili has sand in it. Of the main fast food chains, Wendy's is the only one to offer chili. And it's a pretty sensible chili, but while you're topping off your baked potato, you should know that there might be sand in it. Silicon dioxide is a substance that's used in anti-gaming applications and is present in several fast food items. Also known as silica, the substance keeps things like your chili from clumping together into a congealed mess. But it's also used to make cement and glass, though it's a different grade of silica. All in all,
And this is the
not much
easiest setting
different
to have.
from on each. Number 4. Gelatin is made with bones. Think of all the squishy, jiggly foods you've enjoyed in your life. Gummy bears, marshmallows, jello. All of those things have a texture and mouthfeel that's very distinctive. And the substance that makes those fun foods so much fun is gelatin. You may know that gelatin can come in powder form or sheets and is mostly tasteless and odorless in its pure form. But, well, what's it made out of? Well, the answer to that would be bones. Just think about that the next time you take a bite of some strawberry jello or a green gummy bear. You're eating a byproduct of cartilage, skin, and bones of animals like pigs and cows. It sounds grosser than it really is, but it's actually showing respect by eating the entire animal after getting all the meat off. And it's actually pretty healthy, containing 18 amino acids. Number 3. Coal tar used in sweeteners. Saccharin is a sweetener that has had a troubled history. Invented in 1879, it was used to sweeten food and drink, but by 1911 it was already earning a bad reputation. An attempt to ban it failed, and then the First and Second World Wars saw saccharin use soar during sugar rations in each conflict. Another attempt to ban saccharin came in 1977, but that too failed. You might be surprised to know the origins of saccharin, as it came out of pure dumb happenstance. The Johns Hopkins researcher named Konstantin Fahlberg was working on finding different uses for coal tar of all things. Coal tar is a super thick liquid that's left over after coal production. Fahlberg got some on his hands and thought the best idea was to taste it. It was exponentially sweeter than sugar, and his discovery led to the creation of saccharin. Fahlberg soon opened factories to make more of the sweet stuff, but was almost immediately met with skepticism over the safety of it. Good thing he had the White House as an ally in the form of then President Theodore Roosevelt. Number 2, many beers have dried fish bladder in them. Beer isn't known for being a particularly complicated beverage. There are lots of variations on the recipe, but the overwhelming majority of beers consist of hops, yeast, water, and grains. It's a process that's worked for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and no matter what kind of craft beers add unique ingredients to shake things up, the big 4 main ingredients are always there. Well, sometimes there's also dead fish bladders as well. Yes, it's true, and it's also a little controversial, as many people think beer is vegetarian. It's called isinglass formula. It's a kind of gelatin derived from the swim bladder of a fish. It's been used in many beers to filter out impurities and to make your beer brighter looking and less hazy. The substance also helps with overall taste, some say, and helps breweries get an attractive looking beer out to market in a shorter time. The days of isinglass being used might be numbered, however, as no one will ever really get over the thought of a fish bladder. Number 1, processed breads have a substance made from human hair. One staple of the grocery store, which surely isn't tampered with, must be a loaf of bread. Right? It's something you can count on. A simple sliced rectangle of goodness. Flour, yeast, water. It doesn't get much more simple than that. And from dough to the finished product, these baked goods don't have any room for any fun business. Right? There's an amino acid chain in many of them called L-cysteine, and it's derived from human hair. Gross? Yes, L-cysteine is in these breads to prolong shelf life, which is crucial. It would just be great if there was a way to make it from something other than people's hair that's mostly gathered from beauty salon floors in China. L-cysteine can also be extracted from duck feathers and cow horns. These items are dissolved in acid, and once the amino acid is isolated, it's sent off to bread makers who then use it when baking their loaves. One way to avoid this is purchasing your bread from a local bakery who mostly use standard bare-bones ingredients that don't have molecule juice. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every day of the week. For more from me, subscribe to the Mega Projects channel that I mentioned. There's a link below. Thanks for watching.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth.
This episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream, a subscription streaming service that offers over 2,000 documentaries and non-fiction titles. Unlimited access starting at just $2.99 a month and 30 days for free if you sign up at curiositystream.com/biographics with the code biographics. More about them in a bit. There are few historical figures whose name evokes more dread than that of Blackbeard the pirate. Undoubtedly the most infamous man to emerge out of the golden age of piracy of the late 17th and early 18th century, Blackbeard has far transcended all of his cohorts and has become not only an archetypally villainous pirate captain, but a pop culture figure who is still present in our movies, TV shows, books, and video games. There were other more successful pirates. Bartholomew Roberts, aka Black Bart, may have been the most triumphant corsair from the golden age of piracy, capturing an estimated 400 ships during his career. Henry Avery, dubbed the king of all pirates, took one massive prize and managed to disappear forever, actually getting to enjoy the riches that he had plundered. Qin Shi, a female pirate who prowled the South China Sea, commanded a giant army of tens of thousands of men. And yet, it is Blackbeard that everyone knows and everyone fears. But what was it about this larger-than-life figure that made him stand head and shoulders above his contemporaries? Well, today we try to find that out as we explore the life of the dreadful pirate, Blackbeard. Right off the bat, there is a problem with trying to tell the story of Blackbeard, one which is shared with pretty much every other pirate of his time. and that's a lack of contemporary sources. Blackbeard might be the most famous corsair in history, but we know shockingly little about his life before he raised the black flag. The main source we have for Blackbeard's life, and indeed for many of his ilk, is a book originally published in 1724 by one Captain Charles Johnson. It went by several very, very long names as it was reprinted in multiple editions, but it is typically known as A General History of the Pirates. It's a fascinating read, and it certainly has a lot of juicy stories, but the way it presents its characters in a somewhat mythical way makes historians think it might contain its fair share of formulations, not just facts. Fittingly, even the author is a mystery to us. So little is known of Captain Charles Johnson that people have usually assumed it is a pseudonym. Since 1932, when the idea was first proposed by writer John Robert Moore, many people have been convinced that Charles Johnson was an alias of Daniel Defoe, the English author best known for his novel Robinson Crusoe. Or it is possible that Charles Johnson never really existed and was simply an amalgam of anonymous authors who all contributed different biographies. Given that Blackbeard was in his late 30s and early 40s when he died in 1718, he must have been born sometime around 1680, presumably in Bristol. The name he used most often during his pirate career was Edward Teach, or sometimes Thatch, with various spellings of each incarnation. Truth be told, pirates often used aliases, so we cannot even say with certainty that either one of these was his real name. It isn't irrelevant though, because everyone just came to know him by the sobriquet Blackbeard. At that time, Bristol was a major international port, particularly active in the slave trade across the Atlantic. Therefore, it is almost certain that Teach started serving aboard a ship.
Man, that fucking volcano over up to the one that exploded before, the one suddenly the city closed too soon.
Before turning to piracy, Teach
Man,
operated
it exploded
as a
again.
privateer out of Jamaica during the Anglo-French War of the early 18th century, which itself was part of the larger conflict known as the War of Spanish Succession. Specifically, Teach may have been active in the American theatre known as Queen Anne's War, where British colonists fought the French and the Spanish. This is bolstered by the fact that when he finally captained his own ship, Teach renamed it to the Queen Anne's Revenge. In case you ever wondered what the difference between a pirate and a privateer was, we might as well clear that up now. While a pirate was a criminal who operated mostly on a free-for-all basis and attacked whatever ship caught his fancy, a privateer was more like a private contractor under the service of his government during wartime. He received a commission known as a letter of marque and was only allowed to target ships belonging to the enemy, and he had to give a percentage of the spoils to the government. The problem was that once the war was over, privateers were supposed to stop attacking ships. However, by that time, most of them had already developed a bit of a taste for it, and they didn't really have any other marketable skills, so many of them just decided to become pirates. While we're at it, let's cover two more similar terms, corsair and buccaneer. A corsair was an English term used to refer to foreign privateers, and it was intended as an insult. Meanwhile, buccaneers were a specific group of pirates from the Caribbean who started out as hunters on islands such as Tortuga and Hispaniola. They preyed on boar and cattle and sold the smoked meat to passing ships, and in French the meat was known as viande bouchonnée. Because they were tough, skilled hunters, the buccaneers soon realized that it was easier for them to simply attack the ships which docked on their islands, and soon enough they gained a fearsome reputation and were in demand by all pirate and privateer.
Need a professional website? I created one for our startup using Wix. Let me show you how I did.
I need you to go the fuck away.
Ships. The story of Blackbeard starts in earnest in 1716, when he took up piracy. You might be surprised to learn that his career only lasted a little over 2 years, but it was enough for his infamy to spread and grow to the point where he is still a fearsome character some 300 years later. Teach was somewhat successful as a privateer. Captain Johnson mentioned that he often distinguished himself for his uncommon boldness and personal courage, but specified that he was never given command of a ship. Then he became faced with the same problem as all other privateers. In 1713, following the signing of the Treaty of Utrecht, the war ended. Teach no longer had the backing of the British government to prey on Spanish and French ships, so inevitably he turned to piracy. Sometime between 1713 and 1716, Edward Teach left Jamaica for New Providence and islands which proved to be an ideal headquarters for pirates. Although it once had colonists, it had been abandoned following numerous Spanish and French attacks during the war. Even though they were badly damaged, the island still had multiple structures, including a fort, so the pirates didn't have to start from scratch. Whilst in New Providence, Teach joined the crew of another famous pirate at that time, Captain Benjamin Hornigold. Hornigold's notoriety would increase in just a couple of years when he would accept a pardon from the British government and become a pirate hunter tasked with bringing down the same men he once sailed with, Blackbeard included. For the time being, however, the two had a strong relationship. Hornigold had been impressed with Teach's nautical skills and gave him his first command of a ship they captured. It was only a sloop of war, which was a small ship with only 2 or 3 masts, but it was a start. The beginning of 1717 was a fruitful period for Teach. Alongside Hornigold, he sailed to mainland America around the coast of Virginia, and together they took several prizes. First, there was a ship coming in from Havana, which had 120 barrels of flour. Then another sloop from Bermuda, which was carrying wine. And lastly, a ship traveling from Madeira in Portugal to South Carolina. After they had enough prowling the waters off the American coast, the pirates headed back to the West Indies in the fall. In November, they captured a French Guineaman called La Concorde, which had left Nantes and was headed for the island of Martinique. A Guineaman was a large cargo ship intended specifically for the transport of slaves. According to a report given by the ship's French captain, Pierre Dosset, La Concorde had 16 cannons and 75 crewmen and was carrying over 500 slaves and around 20 pounds of gold dust. However, their voyage across the Atlantic was long and arduous, and by the time they encountered pirates, they'd already lost 16 crewmen and 61 slaves, not to mention the fact that another 36 crewmen were stricken ill with scurvy and dysentery. When they met Teach about 100 miles away from Martinique, the French had little resistance to offer, especially as the two pirate ships had a combined might of 150 men and 20 cannons. After 2 volleys fired at La Concorde, Captain Dosset surrendered the vessel. Afterwards, the pirates sailed the ships to the nearby island of Berquia, where they dropped almost everyone on the shore. A few of the French crewmen joined up with the pirates voluntarily, while several useful members, such as surgeons, carpenters, and a cook, were pressed into service. Teach preferred this new larger ship to his old tiny sloop, so he left that one behind with the French sailors and took La Concorde. The French had little say in the matter, so they accepted the new vessel, which they renamed Mauvais Rencontre, or Bad Encounter. As for La Concorde, with Hornigold's permission, Teach captained it and turned it into his flagship, renaming it Queen Anne's Revenge. We already mentioned that this name came from Teach serving in Queen Anne's War, but it is also possible that he was a Jacobite, a person who wanted to restore the House of Stuart to the throne of Great Britain instead of the House of Hanover. Queen Anne was the last monarch from the House of Stuart who had passed away in 1714. Now, just before we continue with Blackbeard's journey today, let me tell you a bit about today's sponsor, CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a subscription streaming service that offers over 2,000 documentaries and non-fiction videos from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals. If you're looking for a specific recommendation from me on that platform, well, what ties well into today's video would be a series called History, and especially the second episode of that series, which is all about the Age of Exploration. So I'll probably be into if you're enjoying this video. Now, full disclosure, I haven't actually watched that series yet, but 2 things. One, if it's anything like anything else on CuriosityStream, it's gonna deliver. I had a quick flick through, a quick watch of a bit of it, and it does look really great, just as good as all the other stuff on there. CuriosityStream is available on loads of different platforms. It's also available worldwide. You can get unlimited access starting at just $2.99 a month. And for you guys, the first 30 days are free if you sign up at curiositystream.com/biographics and use the code biographics. All one word, lowercase, no quotes during the sign-up process. That's a great way to support this show and keep us making more videos. And I couldn't think of a better fit for sponsorship. And so let's get back to Blackbeard.
Your eyes are everything. They're how you see the world and connect with others.
Once each had a ship that matched his ambitions, and he was ready for the world to get to know and fear the name Blackbeard. He spent the next year prowling up and down the islands of the Caribbean, taking prizes wherever possible. This included a large vessel called the Great Allen, which the pirates plundered and destroyed, as well as a sloop called the Adventure, which Blackbeard captained, added to his fleet, captained by his sailing master, a pirate called Israel Hands. Near Barbados, the Queen Anne's Revenge engaged in a naval battle with a powerful man of war named the HMS Scarborough. Even though the other ship was bombed with 30 cannons, the Queen Anne's Revenge proved to be more than a match for it. After several hours of fighting, the Scarborough disengaged and retreated to Barbados. Benjamin Hornigold and his ship, the Ranger, were present for some of the plunders. It's not exactly clear when he and Blackbeard parted ways, but in January 1718, he travelled to Jamaica to accept the king's pardon and become a pirate hunter. During this time, Blackbeard also made the acquaintance of another close associate, one who merits inclusion just because he is unique in pirate lore, Stede Bonnet. When exactly the two met varies based on the source. Some say that each and Hornigold first ran into Bonnet while they were plundering the coast of America, while Captain Johnson specified that Blackbeard met the other pirate captain after acquiring the Queen Anne's Revenge. What made Stede Bonnet truly special was that he seemingly had it all, yet gave it all away to become a pirate. He was a wealthy, respectable landowner with a sugar plantation in Barbados. Even so, he borrowed money to buy and outfit a ship and secure a crew, and then he left his past life behind and raised the black flag. We can only speculate as to his motivation. Maybe he went through an extreme midlife crisis, or maybe he was just really, really bored and wanted some adventure. Contemporary accounts suggest that Bonnet suffered some discomforts he found in the married state. However, becoming a pirate just to get away from a nagging wife seems a tad extreme to historians who argue that Bonnet may have actually been mentally unstable. Whatever the reason, Stede Bonnet became a pirate captain, even though he had no knowledge of sailing. Teach picked up on this pretty quick when the two met, and he used it to his advantage in order to add another ship to his command. Bonnet's men were perfectly happy sailing under the mighty Blackbeard instead of an inexperienced captain. Bonnet was recovering from an injury and was made a permanent guest aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge, while one of Teach's men, the first mate named Richards, captained Bonnet's ship, the Revenge. Of course, in this case, permanent guest was just a polite way of saying prisoner, and it's hard to know what would have happened if Bonnet tried to forcefully regain command of his ship. This was never the case, however, as the gentleman pirate, as he was sometimes called, seemed content sailing alongside Blackbeard.
We'll go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Eventually, Blackbeard fully betrayed Bonnet when the captain decided that he had too many ships in his fleet. He stripped the Revenge of loot and supplies and beached it, almost marooning most of its crew on a sandbar. To his credit, Bonnet did learn a thing or two about being a pirate while sailing with Teach. He was able to get the Revenge seaworthy again, secured a crew, and went in pursuit of his treacherous former companion. It would have been interesting to get a final confrontation between these two and see who came out on top. Alas, Bonnet never met Blackbeard again. Instead, he was caught and arrested, and after numerous delays, he was hanged for piracy. On the bright side, for us at least, Bonnet's trial transcript became an important source for a big chunk of Blackbeard's career.
You're not a dish. You're a man. Most name brand bars and body washes you rub on your skin are classified by the FDA as synthetic detergent. Not even real soap. Stop marinating your man meat in unholy ingredients that are harmful to your well-being, body, and sperm count. Start treating your body to the natural, nourishing
Soccer reads that near you?
Get ready
I'm
to
on
step
my
out
own
of the
little
shower
island, dude.
feeling alive.
This one here represents the deadliest explosion known to mankind so far.
That smells really good.
I would use it, but like, if a guy smelled like that too, I'd be like, if my man was wearing this, I would be all over him.
Natural. It's kind of like being in a forest.
I would use this on myself. Way better than like the regular store-bought soap.
I'm talking about natural, nourishing, cold-pressed hand-cut soap for men.
The first half of 1718 saw Blackbeard, the height of his power. He took prize after prize with little to no opposition because his fleet was mighty enough that no single ship stood a chance against them, but also because people began fearing the name Blackbeard. If Teach was good at anything, it was cultivating a menacing reputation for himself which sent chills down everyone's spine and made ship captains surrender before there was any need for actual combat. Physically, Teach was an imposing man. He was described as being tall with wide shoulders and obviously had a very long, dark beard. He wore a sling over both shoulders which contained braces for 6 pistols that he held across his chest like bandoliers. Allegedly, he was in the habit of taking long, slow-burning fuses and lighting them and tucking them under his hat so that little wisps of smoke would form around his head, giving him an otherworldly, frightening appearance. Curiously, Teach also apparently liked to take his long beard and braid it into pigtails tied off with coloured ribbons. Doesn't exactly sound particularly terrifying, but I guess people were a lot easier to scare 300 years ago. Whatever he did, it worked, and most ships were ready to surrender as soon as they saw Blackbeard's flag. Speaking of which, well, what was Blackbeard's flag exactly? Well, that's a hard question to answer. There is one design which has been associated with the pirate for a long time. It features a dog skeleton holding an hourglass in one hand and a spear in the other, which is piercing a heart. It's an interesting design, but it appears to only be 100 years old, as it was actually first described in a magazine in 1912, with no evidence to suggest that it was ever used by Blackbeard. As far as contemporary accounts are concerned, there is a single description which appeared in a newspaper detailing an attack by Blackbeard's fleet on a merchant ship. It mentions there were 5 pirate vessels in total. 2 of them had black flags with death's heads on them, while the other 3 had bloody flags. Going by this information, it is possible that Blackbeard used the stereotypical skull and crossbones for his design. In the spring of 1718, Blackbeard had enough of the Caribbean and sailed back to America. Here, besides taking a few more prizes whenever the occasion presented itself, Teach embarked on his most brazen endeavor, blockading the city of Charlestown, South Carolina, today called Charleston. The pirates boarded and seized all of the ships that tried to enter or leave the port. One of those vessels, the Crowley, contained a lot of rich, prominent Charlestown citizens who were headed for London. Blackbeard took them as hostages and told the governor that if he didn't meet his demands, he would send the governor all their heads and burn down the ships that he had seized. Blackbeard's ransom demand was rather dull, but still practical. He wanted a chest full of medicine. He sent one of the hostages, Mr. Marks, and a few of his own men ashore and gave them 2 days to return before he started chopping off heads. Those days passed without response, but fortunately for everyone involved, the captain wasn't a premature decapitator. Blackbeard delayed his punishment long enough that Marks arrived with the medicine and explained that the reason why it took longer than expected was because the pirates got drunk in the city and couldn't be found. Blackbeard was content with his explanation and released all of his hostages safely without their valuables. Course. From there, the pirate fleet moved on to North Carolina, where something bizarre happened at Beaufort Inlet. Blackbeard lost the Queen Anne's Revenge. Apparently, the intention was to careen it. Careening is the practice of grounding a ship intentionally at a high tide so that during low tide you can repair or clean the bottom of the hull that's normally underwater. However, the ship apparently went too far ashore and ran aground into a sandbar. They tried to use one of the sleeves to tow the ship back to the water, but that would run aground as well, and both sustained too much damage to be usable again. Just like that, Blackbeard was left with only 2 sloops. This proved to be a real boon for modern archaeologists, as a search team found the wreckage of the Queen Anne's Revenge in 1996, and researchers have been studying and excavating it for over 2 decades. It wasn't until 2011 that it was conclusively identified as the flagship of Blackbeard the Pirate, but it did raise a question regarding how it got there. Losing 2 ships while careening would have been, even using the gentlest terms, a foolish mistake. Up until that point, Blackbeard had shown himself a capable captain. That is why some historians speculate that he may have done it on purpose in order to break up.
Did you know there are more than 1.8 million vacant houses all across the USA right now? And I know that number's going up with all that's going on. But what's important is that each one of those vacant houses represents an opportunity for regular folks with no experience to turn them into giant paychecks using a new bank that's available right now. My name's Cameron Dunlap, and I've been doing real estate deals since 1993. If you do the math, that's a long time. And along the way, I've helped thousands of students do more deals and make more money than
Shut up.
his crew. Next up, Teach went to Bath, North Carolina, and accepted the king's pardon, like Hornigold and many other comrades in arms. In an effort to curb piracy, King George I extended a one-time offer to pardon all pirates who surrendered willfully, with the promise that those who didn't, well, they'd be hunted down without mercy. Whether Blackbeard did this because he lost his flagship, or whether he ran the ship to ground because this was his plan all along, we can't say. What we do know is that he became close friends with the North Carolina governor, Charles Eden, who not only gave Teachers pardon, but also a commission as a privateer aboard his remaining sloop, Adventure. The pirate more or less continued his plundering ways, but now he had the approval of the governor, who most likely received a cut of the spoils. Eden may have been happy with Blackbeard prowling his waters, but the nearby governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood, was not. Some of the captain's former crew members had already begun causing troubles in his territory, and having Blackbeard in the area severely put a hamper on local trade. He had little legal recourse against the pirates, but he didn't care. He wanted Blackbeard gone one way or another.
Do you have boats yet?
Spotswood commissioned 2 armed sloops to go and capture
what?
Teach for several acts
Do you have
of
any
piracy,
boats?
which he may have committed after the cut-off date.
Okay, I just launched my first boat.
However,
I'm
he
still
did so
excited.
knowing full well that this would most likely lead to a battle. The Virginia force was led by Lieutenant Robert Maynard, a man described by Captain Johnson
I discovered
as
selling 10
bravery
turns
and
ago.
resolution. On the morning
I
of
still
July
can't believe it's
22nd,
water.
1780, the 2 sloops approached the Adventure in the Channel, leading to Ocracoke Island, and engaged into a fight. First came several volleys of cannon fire, which proved quite destructive to Maynard's forces and gave Blackbeard the advantage. This prompted the pirate to board the lieutenant's ship, but unbeknownst to him, he walked into an ambush. Maynard had ordered most of his men to hide below deck and tricked the pirates into thinking they were severely outnumbered. As soon as Blackbeard and his cohorts were aboard, the British sailors pounced. According to Maynard's account, the fight lasted 6 minutes. Afterwards, the infamous Blackbeard lay dead after being shot 5 times and cut 20 times. The surviving pirates quickly gave up. Maynard had Blackbeard's head tied to his ship's bowsprit, while the rest of his remains were thrown in the water. That was the end of the world's most notorious pirate. It was somewhat fitting that Blackbeard died in battle and got sent to Davy Jones's locker instead of being hanged like most of his contemporaries. If anything, this violent end only helped increase the legend of Blackbeard, as evidenced by the fact that it's still going strong today. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos like this about 4 times per week. So hit that bell to find out when we put out a new video. Also, this video is possible, of course, because of curiosity.
Which works better for getting rid of nail fungus, apple cider vinegar or tea tree oil? Most doctors...
This video is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Get a shave starter set for only $5 and check out their great holiday gift sets. After that, the restock box ships with full-size products at the regular price. Go to dollarshaveclub.com/biographics to get started. Some weeks ago, we ran an episode about the Vatican City-State on our sister channel Geographics, which you should definitely subscribe to. There's a link below. In that video, I mentioned one of the tiny state's most peculiar residents, and many of you asked me to expand on his life here on the Biographics channel. I'm talking about Father Gabriele Amort, the most experienced and prolific exorcist in force at the Vatican. Between the start of his career in 1986 until shortly before his death in 2016, Father Amort claims to have exorcised 300 subjects per year. So let's get into it then. How did Gabriele Amort become a priest and, more importantly, an exorcist? Gabriele Amort was born on May 1st, 1925 in Medina, northern Italy, now famous for being the home of Ferrari. Medina also had a high concentration of alleged witches and wizards, especially from the 15th through the 18th centuries. Some of them were just experts in legal remedies, but they still had to face the local inquisition active from the 13th to the 18th century. One of these occult individuals deserves a special mention, Father Guillermo Campana, a renowned local priest. Campana was an exorcist, but also a womanizer, a sorcerer, and a necromancer. He was duly tried by the Inquisition in 1517. We don't know if young Gabriella was aware of these stories. What we do know is that he grew up in a household that was both religious and involved in politics. His father was an early supporter of the People's Party, a faction inspired by Catholic ideals and the precursor to the eventual Christian Democrat Party. In 1943, Gabriella turned 18 and he was drafted into the fascist army, but he was AWOL in a joint-day resistance unit headed by a Catholic activist. For the following 2 years, Amort fought against fascist loyalists and German occupation forces, rising to the rank of battalion commander within the resistance. That's equivalent to an army major, and he'd done all of this by the age of 20. It's reassuring to know that your local demon hunter was also handy with a rifle and a Sten submachine gun. Amort reported being arrested and sentenced to death more than once, but he always managed to escape. After the end of the war, Amort was awarded the War Cross for military valor. After returning to civilian life, Gabriella moved to Rome to study law. He also became active in politics. In 1947, he joined the recently founded Christian Democrats as vice secretary of the party's youth organization. The secretary in charge was one Giulio Andreotti, a controversial figure who later became a cabinet minister and eventually prime minister. Gabriella didn't pursue politics since the age of 17, but Mort had considered joining the church, and so after earning his law degree, he enrolled in seminary to become a man of the cloth. In 1954, Gabriella attained a second degree in theology and was ordained as a Catholic priest.
I wish I had better news, but another major news outlet just labeled my critical Montana Senate race a toss-up. I'm starting to get worried. We're down in the polls, and President Trump and Mitch McConnell are counting on me to deliver.
Fuck off. Don't give a fuck about their politics.
During his first years in priesthood, Father Amort did not practice exorcisms, nor was he probably even aware of these rituals. At that time, the number of exorcist priests in Italy could be counted on 2 hands. However, Amort did dedicate himself to some of the most miraculous, supernatural, and even controversial aspects of the faith. A long devotee of the Virgin Mary, Amort studied the Marian apparitions in modern-day Bosnia. He firmly believed these to be true-life events, a point of fact not endorsed or agreed upon by all clergy members. In 1959, he visited another site famous for miracles attributed to the Mother of Jesus, Fatima, in Portugal. In a spectacular enterprise, Father Amort organized a pilgrimage in reverse. He arranged for a statue of the Virgin to travel from Fatima to all of Italy's main cities. His old pal, Andreotti, now Minister of Defense, assisted by loaning Amort some military transport helicopters. It's a good friend. During this tour, Father took the statue to the convent of Padre Pio, or Father Pius, now saint. Friar is widely believed to have performed miracles during his lifetime, and after his death, he was also stabbed with stigmata, unexplained bleeding marks on his wrists, hands, or feet, matching the wounds that Jesus Christ received on the cross. It was Father Pio who first introduced Father Amort to the mysteries of the devil and its presence among humans. Often the Prince of Darkness would torment Pio, disguised as a huge, snarling black dog. While the friar prayed alone in his convent cell, the hellbound would attack him, forcing him into vicious, all-night-long fights. Father Pio died in 1968 and was canonized as a saint in June. During the ensuing years, Father Amort did not have direct contact with any demons. The closest he had was his acquaintance with Father Candido Amantini, who, for much of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, was the only sanctioned exorcist in Rome. But things were about to change. In 1986, Father Amort was 61, an age close to retirement for most people, and yet his true career was only just about to start. On June 6, 1986, Father Amort was summoned for a meeting with Cardinal Pauletti, the highest-ranking clergyman.
Yellowstone caldera has erupted in one of the deadliest explosions known to man. 2 tiles damage, 2 population lost, 0 units killed, 6 tiles gained fertility.
It was the official appointment as assistant to Amantini. And just like that, Amort had become assistant.
So where the fuck was Yellowstone caldera?
The deputy chief exorcist of the Vatican. He understood immediately that he was going to become more than an assistant. He would soon become Amantini's successor, as the current chief exorcist.
You got feeling this ain't gonna be rough for me.
Died in September 1992. From
I
1986
still wonder what Yellowstone Caldera is. Shit.
all the tricks of that terrifying trade that is the casting away of demons. I'll now ask you to step
No, that's not even a volcano, man. That's a super volcano, a caldera.
and then TV
Oh, I know.
take you through a quick apprenticeship of how to become a demon slayer. First lesson, what is possession?
And if this game is actual, North America should be uninhabitable right now.
Catechism, demonic possession is the act by which the devil, a demon, or a spirit takes over a victim's physical activity as well as their mental and spiritual energies. By exerting physical violence upon the hosts, which manifests for the victim as illness or pain, the demon can coerce humans into committing unholy sins. So what exactly is the ultimate goal of these malignant entities? In most cases, it's just to spread chaos for the sheer pleasure of it. The possession cases that Anatinians and Morton involved themselves in mainly belongs to a category defined as peripheral pathogenic by modern anthropology. Anthropologist Ian Lewis makes a distinction between central and peripheral types of possession. In the case of central possession, a member of the religious elite becomes possessed by spirits during an official ceremony in which he or she fulfills a political, religious, or moral function. Peripheral possession, on the other hand, indicates an invasion of evil spirits, immoral, dangerous. Anthropologist Emma Cohen further subclassifies peripheral possession into executive and pathogenic. Executive possessions involve the complete replacement or transformation of the host's personality with that of the invading entity. In pathogenic cases, the spirit or demon will cause abnormal and deviant behavior, illness, pain, or misfortune to the victims while their identity is largely intact. It's the alternating of normal and abnormal behavior that leads the victim's social circle to seek help. The world's largest religions all have their interpretations of what entities may cause these peripheral pathogenic possessions. According to the Talmud, a sacred book of Jewish tradition, possession is called dibuk. This is when the soul of a dead person is grafted onto a living person's soul. In Islam, those who are greedy for earthly pleasures, have low self-esteem, or struggle for acceptance may be possessed by the jinn. According to the Quran, these are entities made of smokeless, scorching fire and are not necessarily malevolent. In Hindu lore, unwanted possessions manifest as physical or mental illnesses, mainly affecting women and children. These are caused by a number of evil forces such as Buddhas, or ghosts, curtails, blood-sucking witches, Isakas, flesh-eating demons, and, well, many more. Going back to Catholicism, the Catechism identifies possessing entities as either the devil himself or, much more commonly, his demons. These are fallen angels, which means that their strength, intellect, knowledge, and cunning are superior to that of humans. Nonetheless, they are still God's creatures and are ultimately subject to his will. That's why an ordained member of the church can perform exorcisms. These are simply defined as acts or rites by which priests use their authority to demand that a person or even an object is rid of the influence of evil. Father Ementini introduced his pupil, Gabriella, to the strictly codified procedures to conduct an exorcism as defined by ecclesiastical law and the Roman ritual. This is the official collection of sacred rites and prayers to be used during the sacraments. But before you can start to exorcise a patient, how can you be sure that a demon is lurking within? Well, just before we get into all of that, I just want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, Dollar Shave Club. So you might think it a bit odd that I would advertise a shaving company, because clearly I have a beard, but I still have to shave. I just shave my head instead. So I used to use an electric razor, but it never really got that close to a shave. Then I moved to blades, but I kept cutting myself because I buy the cheap ones. Then, well, I bought the really expensive ones, and they did a great job, but they were really expensive. But then I found Dollar Shave Club. With Dollar Shave Club, quality doesn't come with a crazy price tag. I mean, really, who wants to spend quite so much money on razors? They are just usually crazy expensive. And it's not just shaving. Dollar Shave Club also covers all of your other grooming needs. Shower, oral care, deodorants, all there. Anyway, it's the holiday season, so Dollar Shave Club also have gifts available. There are gift sets, gift cards, so if you really want to be a legend to a friend or family member, get them the Rob Loncho. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a combo of a robe, a blanket, and a poncho. Yep. So Dollar Shave Club is a great place to find a gift for your significant other, maybe a dad or brother or just a friend. It's amazing stuff. Look, all of this great stuff is super high quality. This is the executive handle. It's really nice and weighty. Obviously, high quality blades come with it, just like that. Also, Dr. Carver's Shave Club, who doesn't love this stuff, is just better than time. Forget that. Get this. So go to dollarshaveclub.com/biographics to get started today for just £5. Also, check out those holiday gift sets. Once you've started, a restock box ships with full-size products later at the regular price. Let's get back to it. Amort learns how to approach every potential case of possession with a process called discernment. First, patients must present with clear symptoms. Besides irrational changes in one's behavior, including performing acts of violence and self-harm, there are some physical symptoms. The whites of the eyes may appear red, as in cases of conjunctivitis. The pupils will be excessively and constantly dilated. The patient's face will appear longer and darker than normal. So far, all of these symptoms are compatible with known physical and psychiatric ailments, but others stand out much more clearly. Some patients would display immense, inexplicable physical strength. Their voice may become unnaturally hoarse and deep. They will speak or understand languages previously unknown to them, such as Latin, ancient Greek, or Aramaic. They will react violently to the presence of sacred objects or the mention of religious figures. In extreme cases, just thinking about Jesus or Mary may throw patients into a fit of rage. If people carried these symptoms, Amort and Amantini would organize a prayer service with them known as a diagnostic exorcism. If patients were to react adversely, suggesting actual possession, the exorcist would refer them to a medical team for further evaluation. This is a very important step, as Father Amort and all exorcists in general recognize the importance of proper psychiatric evaluation. If no medical remedy were found for victim's suffering, then the priest would then decide whether to proceed with the exorcism and seek permission from his local bishop. By shadowing Amantini, Father Amort perfected his exorcism rites. According to Roman ritual, these must be conducted by a priest in Latin or another Vatican-approved language, while standing on sacred grounds. The Roman ritual is rigidly codified. Priests are meant to follow a preordained sequence of prayers, psalms, and exhortations intended to expel demons from the host's body. Amort largely followed the ritual during his apprenticeship, but he eventually introduced some personal touches. For example, he always wore a purple stole, which he ensured was wrapped around both his and his patient's shoulders. He always made sure he was carrying holy water and bearing a medal of St. Benedict of Nursia. The saint is mostly known for his lasting influence on monastic life and education, but he is also famous for defeating Satan on at least 3 occasions. Over time, Amort realized that more than 90% of his cases that made it to step 5 turned out not to be real possessions. That is why he developed a further screening method, which worked only once an exorcism was underway. Amort claims that during the ritual, many patients would close their eyes during specific prayers. In turn, Amort would have their eyelids forced open. In the case of real possessions, the eyes appeared completely white. In an interview with British broadcaster Charles Brandreth, Amort specified that if the pupils are completely rolled upwards, then the demons in possession are scorpions. If looking down, they are serpents. Amort did not elaborate on this distinction, but serpents or snakes are a common incarnation of Satan or his demons in Christian art and literature. Scorpion demons are more interesting, though, as they belong to the Mesopotamian mythology that predates any description of Judeo-Christian demons. It was a Mesopotamian demon, Pazuzu, that appeared as the main antagonist in the movie The Exorcist. After a period in which Father Amort closely shadowed his mentor, he finally had the chance to perform his first exorcism as the lead. This case related to a 14-year-old girl who, after attending a satanic ritual in central Rome, immediately presented with symptoms of possession. Her parents took her immediately to Amantini, but unfortunately the lead exorcist was ill. Amort stepped forward. In a rare instance of disobedience, he disregarded the discernment process and immediately started the ritual. In later interviews, he claimed that the girl was healed after one single session. He explains this by citing the immediacy of the exorcism, which had prevented the demon or spirit from taking root or burrowing inside the victim. This was an exception. In most cases, patients were taken to Amantini and Amort only after months of suffering from possession symptoms. According to Amort's new theory, this enabled invading spirits to settle inside the hosts. This demonic fortification required exorcisms to continue for multiple sittings, at least an hour long, over the span of months or even years, until a patient was eventually liberated. Is liberation a given? Father Amorth became increasingly confident about his odds of victory with each passing exorcism. The teaching of Amentini was that regardless of their power, demons will ultimately succumb to the power of Christ if properly channeled through an exorcist. Father Amorth once told journalists that the devil may win some battles, even important ones, but remember, he will never win the war. Father Amorth indeed waged a constant war against the legions of hell. Since his appointment in 1986 until his death in 2016, the chief exorcist dealt with more than 300 cases of possession every year. That's a rough total of 10,000 alleged possessions, requiring him to perform about 70,000 exorcism sessions. However, Father Amorth always admitted that the actual cases of demonic possession were in the hundreds, not in the thousands. In most cases, exorcism didn't work. Patients were referred back to psychiatric care and eventually cured via the means. In actual cases of possession, Father Amorth estimated that 90% of them would use the patient's exposure to a spell, a curse, or a satanic ritual. Amorth acknowledges that most self-described witches, wizards, clairvoyants, or Satanist priests are harmless occult enthusiasts at best, or mundane scammers at worst. However, he believes that a small minority of them actually do have dark powers. So, what are the effects of confirmed possession on its victims? Well, let's take the example of one of Amorth's youngest patients, a boy of 11. Halfway through the ritual, the boy, or the demon within, flew into such a fit of rage that he had to be restrained by 7 grown men, and even then the boy managed to send them flying through the room. Violent manifestations and attacks are not uncommon, which is why exorcists often deploy physical restraints. On one occasion, a patient succeeded in attacking Amorth directly, delivering a kick so strong that it broke his leg. The priest had to wear a cast for a month. Most attacks directed at the priest take a different form, and that's spitting. This is a manifestation of the scorn and spite felt by demons against the exorcist and his prayers. In some cases, the projectile was more than just saliva. In one particularly tough ritual, Amorth went to cover the patient's mouth while she was foaming and spitting, and when he retracted his hand, he said that he found it filled with metal nails. This was not surprising to Amorth. Spitting, or simply producing metallic items in the patient's mouth, is a common trick used by devils to hurt and scare their victims. He recalled patients slowly ejecting from their mouth large metal spikes, shards of glass, or even a radio, which came out one piece at a time. During his career, Father Amorth had frequently spoken about the film The Exorcist. While praising it for raising awareness about the practice of exorcism, he pointed out that the ritual used was not the correct one, and most of the symptoms displayed by the victim were exaggerated. No, the head can't spin 180 degrees, and no, people can't bend over backwards and walk around like spiders. However, victims can contort in unnatural ways, angles, and shapes that they are unlikely to crawl like arachnids. How about green projectile vomiting? Well, vomiting does happen, but never with such force. Can patients levitate? Well, actually, Amorth confirmed that this does happen, although he only experienced it twice in 30 years. On another occasion, he witnessed something even more chilling. A possessed old lady was able to walk on walls like a reptile. And lastly, do patients' voices sound double, as though there is more than one entity within? Well, this could be the most interesting one of all. Amorth always maintained that Satan or his demons do not want to talk. This is because they hate being detected. However, when they are discovered, they may engage in short dialogue with the exorcist, usually limited to verbal abuse or curt answers to the priest's questions. The entities may not reveal their name when questioned. If they do, they often claim to be Satan or Beelzebub. What they will easily reveal is how many of them there are within the host. Sometimes 3, 5, 7, perhaps even a legion of demons are within. Even then, though, double or multiple sounding voices is extremely rare, if impossible. For a full account of the battles of Father Amorth, I would only advise pick up one of the several books he published on his experiences, including An Exorcist Tells His Story, My Battle Against Satan, or Memoirs of an Exorcist. Now, it is fair to wonder if the exorcist-in-chief of the Vatican has ever felt fear during his daily occult struggles. Even if one does not believe in demons, we are still talking about confronting patients who are deeply disturbed and potentially dangerous, often several times a day. Journalists have asked him many times if he's scared of Satan, and his reply, absolutely not. It is him who is afraid of me. Father Amorth Amort has always had an open and positive relationship with the press, a channel that he sees as important in raising awareness of exorcism. He believed that prior to the three most recent popes, Vatican leadership had not done enough to support exorcism in the public consciousness. It is perceived as an ancient and outdated practice of the Church, rather than a noble, very real fight against the devil. Amort has never been shy about his critical view of top church officials either. He has accused them of trying to replace the Roman ritual of exorcisms with less powerful variations, and of trying to ban diagnostic exorcisms, a key step in the discernment process. In 2012, Father Amort successfully prevented both changes from taking effect. 2 years later, he scored another victory, receiving an official acknowledgement from the Vatican, the International Association of Exorcists, which he co-founded in 1990. These conflicts with the Vatican have been exacerbated by a series of interviews in the 2000s in which Father Amort stated that the Holy See had been infiltrated by demons and that the series of church sex scandals could be attributed to satanic influence or downright possession. Amort had partially toned down these claims before his death, stating that cardinals and other leaders were not immune from temptations brought forward by Satan, who was more active than ever in his fight against Catholicism. It must be said that Amort did not follow any of his claims to accusing pretty much everything and everyone of being an ally of evil. He went as far as calling yoga a satanic practice, as according to him, it is linked to Eastern religions, which are sometimes centered around the belief in reincarnation. Perhaps his best-known target is the Harry Potter franchise. In his view, the wizarding world described by J.K. Rowling encourages children to believe in black magic and to distance themselves from Christian prayer. However, instead of denting his popularity, these controversies have contributed to Father Amort becoming the most famous living Catholic exorcist. And so it was only a matter of time before he came face to face with the man behind the most famous fictional exorcist. In 2016, filmmaker William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, interviewed Father Amort for Vanity Fair. Friedkin took the occasion to ask permission to join the priest in one of his exorcism sessions. His footage of the exorcism of a young woman called Christina formed the backbone of Friedkin's latest release, the documentary The Devil and Father Amort. When Friedkin met Amort, he had been exorcising Christina for 9 months. It all began with another patient, a woman in her 30s whose name has never been revealed. After a long depression, she was found one day by her brother Paolo, writhing on the floor, her twisting body shaken by convulsions. According to witnesses, she would be found howling like a wolf and crawling on walls like a snake. This state continued for several days, and a psychiatrist was not able to help. Amort took charge, and the patient was healed after 4 sessions. Following the experience, Paolo became one of Father Amort's most trusted assistants. And it was Paolo who, years later, met Christina at Mass, and he noticed how she looked distressed, disorientated, disturbed. Paolo brought her case to Amort's attention. According to Amort, Christina's brother and his girlfriend were members of a satanic cult, and they may have caused Christina's plight after performing an occult ritual. Whatever the cause, it was clear to him that Christina needed his help. After following the discernment procedure, the priest started to exorcise her in August of 2015. Friedkin was allowed to film the 9th exorcism session in early 2016. Clips of the exorcism session are available on YouTube. And for the most part, I'll leave it for you to make your own conclusion. I'll just comment on a couple of things. First, it's remarkable just how calm and unfazed Father Amort appears. In one clip, he thumbs his nose at the demon inside Christina. And although the subtitles miss this, my Italian researcher assures me that he tells the entity to shut up, you ain't worth a cigarette butt. You may also notice Christina's behaviour. She appears to be in a trance-like state, but she is alert and reactive to Amort's ritual. Very reactive. As she thrashes about on her chair or attempts to attack the priest, she is barely held down by 2 well-built men. Then, as Amort orders the demon to leave Christina's body in Latin, the patient replies in Latin, never. According to Friedkin, Christina never studied Latin at school. Finally, when Amort asks how many demons there are, Christina's voice turns different. She has been growling, snarling all through the clip, but at this point her voice sounds double, as if many voices speak from within. She first answers, 80 leaders, and later, we are armies, armies, armies. Then Amort concludes the ritual with the sign of the cross. Amort later confided to Friedkin that this case was particularly unsettling. During a previous session, Christina's entity recited back to Father Amort all his past sins. This was something that only the exorcist and his father confessor knew. Amort and Christina were due to meet again to conclude the exorcism of Her family kept postponing a briefing saw Christina and her relatives again in August, but was threatened with legal action if we divulged the footage. Their concern was that making it public would spread Sagan's work. As Friedkin brushed off the threats, Christina's family cut ties with both the filmmaker and de Mort. Unfortunately, the chief exorcist would not have been able to complete his work with Christina, even if he was able to. Already in poor health throughout the summer, Father de Mort contracted pneumonia and was hospitalized at the beginning of September. At the age of 91, Father Gabriella de Mort died from complications of pneumonia on September the 16th, 2016. According to his assistant, he remained alert and jovial to the last moment, often removing his oxygen mask to blow raspberries at visiting friends whenever they started crying.
Hi, I'm Nikki Haley.
This is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Hello, I'm Senator Lindsey Graham.
I'm Ted Cruz.
Hi, it's Marco Rubio.
Republican Senator Steve Daines has been one of my father's strongest allies.
Obama and Schumer are helping his opponent outraise him by millions of dollars.
This race is tied, and we need your help to win.
So, is any of this real? So far, I have presented possession and exorcism from the point of view of a Mort. Do I believe that demons and spirits can invade and control an individual? Well, let's just say I'm not going to answer that. What I will choose to highlight is the perspective of medicine and psychiatry on demonic possession. For decades, since the beginning of modern psychiatry and psychoanalysis, the official stance was that almost all possessions could be explained as extreme cases of psychosis and schizophrenia. In recent years, the diagnosis has changed, and the DSM-5, the official handbook of psychiatry, identifies demonic possession as a form of dissociative identity disorder. These are perfectly viable explanations. However, some psychiatrists do say that mental illness can't explain all observed phenomena, and that exorcism rites can be considered as some sort of legitimate therapy. For example, the British Journal of Psychiatry published an article on the use of the antipsychotic clopidogrel, exorcism-resistant ghost possession. This acknowledges that exorcism may be actually a cure. More recently, in an interview with The Telegraph, psychiatry professor Richard Gallagher of New York Medical College and Columbia University stated that demonic possessions are real and that patients seeing exorcism should be taken seriously. While I could go on further with arguments and counter-arguments, I'll leave it to you.
The Category 5 hurricane named Forrest now weaker made its final move across the map. During this storm, there were 0 tile damage. 000, just 1 tile game for
share this video with a friend and even subscribe. Also, please do check out our Geographics channel if you haven't seen our video on the Vatican yet and its many secrets. Also, our fantastic sponsor is Dollar Shave Club, linked to below. And thank you for watching. This video.
Hey, I was watching William Barr testify yesterday at the House Judiciary Committee.
Which works better for getting rid of nail fungus? Apple cider.
Aleister Crowley may just be one of the most interesting men who ever lived. He was a self-proclaimed magician, scholar, writer, and even an undercover spy. He was known as the Great Beast 666 because some believed that he was the Antichrist written about in the Book of Revelation. Others believed that he was a genius and a visionary, and that the world would not be the same if it wasn't for his teachings. Well, today we're going to talk about the life of this legendary figure, and you yourself can decide if he truly was the wickedest man alive. In
1875, Alistair Crowley was born in Warwickshire, England, to two extremely religious parents. His grandfather had a successful distillery business, and yet his father never wanted to spend any of the money because he believed drunkenness was a sin. He became a preacher instead, and passionately evangelized the teachings of a fundamentalist Christian group called the Plymouth Brethren. They taught young Edward to live life as simply as possible, and that men, they only existed in order to serve God. Any form of excess, whether it was spending money, dressing in nice clothes, or eating more than was absolutely necessary, was considered a sin, and the temptation to indulge in anything was seen as the work of the devil. When he was very young, Edward looked up to his father and wanted to become a preacher just like him. He obeyed his parents' every demand, and instead of going outside to play with the other children, he instead studied the Bible. As you might imagine, this did not make him a very popular boy in school, and he was bullied mercilessly by the other children. His father, he died of tongue cancer when he was only 11, and he was left in the care of his overzealous mother. Living under such harsh conditions on a daily basis made Edward very sick. The doctors said that he was so weak he would die within just a few months if no changes were made. Thankfully, his uncle stepped in and suggested that maybe the boy needed to live in the countryside. Edward moved in with his uncle and began mountain climbing and running through the forest where he breathed fresh air. His uncle allowed him to have fun, which was a concept that had been completely foreign to him up until that point. He even brought him to pubs and let him drink underage and pay for a prostitute so that he could lose his virginity at the age of 15. After all, the doctors said that he might die soon, so his uncle wanted him to experience as much fun as possible with the time he had left.
What continent
His
were you
health
on?
had fully recovered, and he was sent back to live with his mother. But Edward had changed in his time away, and he was now
that?
in full
Asia.
Okay.
blown teenage rebellion. He knew that the Plymouth Brethren were to blame for his sickly childhood, and he rejected all of their religious teachings. He no longer wanted to be a preacher, and he wanted the free will to make his own life choices. He hated the idea that nearly everything that made people happy was considered to be a sin. His mother was shocked that her obedient son had changed so much in his time away, and said that he'd become the beast from the book of Revelation. After arguing with her, he decided that if he needed to commune with the devil in order to live his life according to his own rules, well, so be it. He would become the beast that his mother said he was. One of the first wicked things he did was have sex with the maid on his mother's bed, just to spite her. When she found out, she fired the maid immediately, and the poor girl's reputation was ruined to the point where she could no longer work. The maid was forced into prostitution, and Crowley claimed that she became Jack the Ripper's first victim. He even said that he knew the Ripper personally, and that he was an occultist. Later, he would write about his formative years. I was in the death struggle with self. God and Satan fought for my soul those long 3 hours. God conquered. Now I have only one doubt left. Which of the twain was...
Your eyes are everything. They're how you see the world and connect with others. At Shopco Optical, your eyes are everything to us too, which is why we offer everything to help you see better and look better. A huge selection of designer frames, convenient locations, and experienced optometrists. We're Shopco Optical. You'll see. Right now, get 50% off lens.
God.
I got my cat super
When
stoned.
Crowley graduated high school, he was sent away to Cambridge, where he introduced himself to his new classmates as Alistair Crowley. He joined the chess club and was able to win several competitions. In 1898, when Alistair was 22 years old, he fell in love with a fellow classmate, Herbert Jerome Pollitt. Very few people in the school knew that Herbert had an alter ego dressing and playing in private nightclubs as Diane de Rougy. Crowley wrote love poems about Herbert, and they are filled with anguish about his wish to be with him. Clearly, his bisexuality was even more motivation to reject Christianity. In the eyes of the church, his love for Herbert was considered to be an abomination. After graduating from university, Alistair inherited the Crowley family fortune, and he could finally do whatever he wanted. He began to hire female prostitutes nearly every day, and he wrote books on the occult. He was writing dirty poetry and publishing them overseas under a pen name. When he was in his early 20s, he found out that he was not alone in his fascination with the occult and the possibility that magic could be real. He
joined a group of aspiring wizards called the Order of the Golden Dawn, which had famous members like poet William Butler Yeats and Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula. They claimed that they had translated ancient Egyptian texts, sold grimoires filled with ancient spells, and Jewish mysticism from the Kabbalah. They believed that they could perform real magic, communicate with angels, and get to know their inner soul. When he showed up to his first meeting of the Order of the Golden Dawn, Crowley was wearing a disguise and introduced himself as Count Vladimir Svarev. He was still afraid that his family would find out that he was dabbling in the occult, since he did not want to ruin his reputation. No one was convinced of his costume, though, because he was a baby-faced youth wearing a false moustache and speaking in a terrible Russian accent. Later on in life, Aleister Crowley actually became a secret agent for the British government during World War I because he claimed that he had successfully infiltrated a secret society. Now, technically that's true, but the result of his spy career was probably more along the lines of the Pink Panther rather than James Bond. After he felt comfortable knowing that the Golden Dawn took privacy very seriously, Crowley admitted to his true identity. Unfortunately, it had already started things off on the wrong foot, and some people in the group found it hard to trust him. Despite this initial deception, Crowley took their teachings very seriously, and he was able to quickly move on through the lessons. The Golden Dawn wanted its new members to be able to get in touch with their inner soul before they were taught real magic. This was accomplished through a lot of discussions of philosophy, yoga, meditation, and mantras. They would write down their dreams in daily journals and interpret what they meant about their inner selves. However, there were some spells that they performed on a daily basis because they truly believed that they could summon angels to their aid. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram goes like this. In the name of God, the God of Israel, may Michael be at my right hand, Gabriel at my left, Uriel before me, Raphael behind me, and above my head, the presence of God. Crowley believed so strongly in the supernatural that he claimed that these were the early stages of a magical journey which would get him in touch with his guardian angel. He openly talked about his desire to call upon demons and the ancient gods. He incorporated psychedelic drugs into his routines because he believed that it intensified his spiritual experiences. This was all genuinely concerning to the rest of the Golden Dawn. Many of them were teetotaling aristocrats who felt that his ideas were radical, if not downright terrifying. The members did not want Crowley to rise in the ranks of the society because he was clearly interested in black magic, and they believed that he would use his powers for evil. There was a strict rule that no one could pay one another to teach them magic, but he managed to convince one of the members to teach him higher levels of spells in exchange for free rent. In his books, Aleister Crowley casually mentions walking on his roommate as he was levitating, as if this was totally normal among the members of the Golden Dawn. In 1899, when he was just 24 years old, Aleister Crowley bought a mansion on the shores of Loch Ness in Scotland called Boleskine House, just so he could perform a spell called the Abramelin Ceremony. However, nothing actually happened. He never saw any angels or demons, no matter how hard he tried. Apparently, he grew tired of doing this ritual every single day without seeing any results, so he wandered off to do something else. Rumors spread that since he failed to finish the ceremony, this unlocked the gates of hell. Years later, Jimmy Page, the lead guitarist of Led Zeppelin, purchased Crowley's home on Loch Ness. He claimed that the house was truly haunted by Crowley's demons. Aleister Crowley's first wife was a woman named Rose Edith Kelly. When they met, she was a young widow who was engaged to a man that her parents chose for her. Crowley convinced her to elope with him instead, after only knowing each other for just one day, so that he could prevent her from entering into this arranged marriage. They ran away on a spur-of-the-moment honeymoon to Egypt together. Crowley brought Rose into a dark cave and began reciting his spells. He was reading from a book called Goethe, the Lexici of Solomon. The idea was that he would summon an Egyptian god, Horus. He went through his chant when Rose's head suddenly fell back. She claims that in that moment she had a vision and heard the voice of Horus. Crowley was frustrated with Rose, assuming that she was playing a prank on him. He had been studying the occult and attempting to summon demons and gods for years, and they never appeared to him in any visions. He simply couldn't believe that it was possible for Rose to evoke Horus when she wasn't even trying. But she kept insisting that she truly did see something in the caves, and that the gods had been angry with him until that point because of his arrogance. Still not believing her, Aleister took her to one of the museums and asked her to point out the god she saw. Rose walked right up to the correct image of Horus, exhibit number 600. and 66. After seeing this proof, they rushed back to their apartment in Cairo so that they could talk about the visions in private. Rose said that Horus had given her instructions on how to communicate with the spirits. She gave Alistair a spiritual ritual to perform. When he was done, he heard a whisper over his shoulder from the voice of his guardian angel, Iwas. The angel instructed him to write down lots of information over the course of 3 days, and he published this in a text called the Book of the Law. The most famous quote was, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Basically, this means do whatever you want with your own life. Crowley was thrilled with this revelation. When he returned to England,
I can get off. My eyes are killing me.
Alright.
About what time do you think you'll be up tomorrow?
I don't know. Shoot me a message.
Okay. Alright. I'll send you a message as soon as I get up.
I have met the Canadian Empire.
I have not met them sorry bastards yet.
Well, I got boats that are actually sailing the seas now. Exploring.
Well, they need to read it over here.
Alright.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Shotgun. I've got words.
Au nom du peuple canadien, bienvenue. Je suis le Premier ministre Laurier.
Okay, that's it. Let me get something done up.
Alright, go ahead and exit.
How many cities do you got?
Oh, fuck. I don't know, like 10? No,
God
maybe
damn.
like 8. Well, that's what my capital's been doing pretty much ever since it got done with its first QE, was producing settlers the whole fucking time.
I can't do that.